Thank
Thanks
you,
loads, John.
and thank you to the team that have organized this. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
This is the Alan and team show. And I feel very excited to hear about what you're all going to be doing today. I think it's just a huge plus for the energy level in the district. So, and it's lovely to see so many faces that I've seen before on calls, which I may not ever be able to get in my canoe and row across the Pacific to see in person. These crazy times. So it's without any further comments, I really want to just say I'm so thrilled to see you all here today. It's a wonderful event. I know that what you've all got planned is just so important, because at the end, while we know that Rotary is a marvelous, wonderful organization, we still need to keep getting the message out there. And on that note, I'll hand over back to you. Is it to Farida or to you, Ursula?
Yep, that's fine, either or, and I will hand over to Farida.
So we're going to watch this little video work of art created by a social media wannabe, me. So let's see that first.
And we're hoping there's going to be sound, but if not, that's fine.
Okay.
Sorry, did that stop randomly, or was that where it's supposed to stop?
No, it's meant to stop there.
Randomly, because that's where I take over.
I thought it was Alan blocking it.
You get
Okay.
Next slide, John.
side of Alan. Okay, so I wanted to introduce the catch of the week. So someone went fishing, that's our district governor nominee and chair of the PI committee, Alan Smith, went fishing and cast his net far and wide. And look what he got. So in today's PI committee, presenters and part of the committee, I'd first like to introduce our social media queen and Ruth Cross. Drum roll, please. Okay, so Ruth has been a part of, has been running her own social media marketing agency, and she's been doing social media for small and medium businesses. I'd also like to introduce Melissa. I don't know whether she's on board right now, but she's also a social media ninja, event organizer, started her own event company. And she's graduated from being a Rotractor to a Rotarian, and we definitely need more of those. We have Madison. I'm not sure whether he's on board again, but Madison has been busy with helping the Public Image Committee for the End Polio Train Tag On Tag Off event. That's going to happen soon. So I'm not very sure whether he's with us today, but yes, he is a big part of our committee. Also,
I am with you. I am with you.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Madison.
Hi.
You
Hi.
made it.
Hi. Finally.
Yeah, that's another fish that Alan caught. And we have Annabelle Lash, who's from the Rotary Club of Ellerslie. Then, of course, everybody knows who Colin Robinson is, our website guru. and go-to guy for Rotary, everything to do with Rotary communication. And Liz Courtney, everyone know who she is, also Rotary Public Image Coordinator for Zone 8. That includes New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. And we have a special guest with us today, America Grewal. I hope I've said her name right. And America is a classic example of living the Rotary dream because she was one of the first of the 4 siblings who spent a Rotary exchange as a year as a Rotary exchange student and lived in Germany and Italy and Chile and Australia. And her son now is a member of the Rotaract Club and has started, also as founding member of the Rotaract Club at the University of Toronto. So, just 2 things I wanted to share before we go on, and that is if there are any goof-ups today, remember it was meant to be. Who wants a straight-laced workshop? And it's time to have some fun. And also this is going to be an exchange, a 2-way street, just so that, it's not just us, but it's wonderful to have comments and feedback. And in terms of why a public image committee, for too long, Rotarians have been working silently, and it's time to toot your horn and share stories, attract members, volunteers, partners, donors. I've been a part of the media scene for the last 38 years. Did I say that aloud? Yes. I've always believed that our entire civilization is built on sharing stories, and Rotary needs to do that to inspire people, to build trust, and share it more on the social media scene. Also, this workshop will help each of you to be equipped to be a brand ambassador for your club. So public image means a lot. I mean, it's different platforms, social media, the traditional media, and you as an ambassador. There's lots you can do. And that's what we're going to learn, how to publicize our club's projects, activities, and influence how people see your club. So without much ado, we will move on to our social media queen, Ruth. Over to you. Ursula, you want to go on to the next slide?
Yep.
Ruth is actually requesting remote control, so if you let me have control back, I'll give it to her. Ruth, you're muted still.
Can someone unmute Ruth?
That's not me. Has somebody else got control?
No, that's Ruth. I've given Ruth control because she asked for it.
Good.
I'll take it back a bit. I think that's Ruth trying to unmute herself. She's still muted.
Just hold on, isn't it?
There she is.
That's
okay.
better.
I have to hold the space bar though until someone gives me control back.
No, just Alt A will unmute it.
You sound up.
Hi, Melissa.
In the meantime, Melissa's here. So for those of you that heard the introduction, I do need the control. Someone needs to unmute me though, because I'm actually holding the space bar down.
You can't unmute. You can only ask her to unmute herself.
Yes. Ruth, just hold Alt and push the A button.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Good?
Yes, you're fine.
All right, fantastic. All right, now I've got control, but this part of the presentation is not. Okay, hang on. Melissa, this is the part where you dance. Okay, so that we can get started. Okay, we seem to be up and running now. All right, everyone. Now, first things first. This is a very what I would classify as a quick social media training session, because these can actually go for hours, days, and weeks, depending on how deep you want to dive with social media training. But what I've done is I've just kind of taken all the cream off the top, and just what I'm giving you is what I think you need to know in order to do effective effective posts in social media for Rotary's purposes. The first thing I want to cover off is optimization of your social media pages. Now, this is one of your most critical early steps of your social media presentation, simply because when people come to your page, they're making very quick decisions about what they think about what's there, and your optimization means how does your page look at a glance. Important factors: that profile photo section needs to be your logo. It can be either the club logo or it can be the Rotary International logo. Make sure that it stands out nicely. I've seen pages that have photos in there, and whilst it's great for a brief period of time, I think overall you do need to stick to your logos for that, and that's your more professional presentation. With your cover images, again, your high quality banners you can use. If you've got an event coming up that you're promoting, like we've done for our page, you can use that. Make sure that your margins are looking accurate, and make sure that you've got mobile optimized images for those cover photos. But outside of that, you can actually have some created that have your logo on them and a sort of particular to what you've got going on in your club, and actually show your club members. The other important aspect is your username. Now, if we can't tag you, or people can't find you unless your username is properly set up. And what that is underneath where it says Rotary District 9920, you've got the @Rotary District 9920. That's your username. If you don't already have one, please make sure that your page does. And try and keep it as short as possible, because people need to type this in order to tag the pages appropriately. I've seen some with in between. It might be Rotary.Richfield or something along those lines. Please remove the dot. And yeah, again, just nice and short so that people can remember it and tag your page. Now, next, what I'd like to talk about about branding opportunities and creating graphics for your club. Now, I've included a couple of platforms that I like to use. Has anyone heard of Fiverr? Can I get a show of hands for anyone that's heard of Fiverr? Ah, there you go, Liz all over it. Yeah, we've got beautiful. Now, for those that haven't heard of it, it's a forum for freelance graphic designers, and you can get all kinds of, and not just graphic designers, there's a whole range of services that are available in Fiverr. And importantly, they're cheap, the turnaround is quick, and you can actually go through and have a look at all those graphic designers and see what sort of work they do in order to select someone that you're going to hopefully engage to work with for your club. And what's important, and I think this needs to go back to your clubs for discussion, is your marketing budget. Although Fiverr is fairly cheap, we're going to talk about Facebook advertising or boosting a little bit further down the track. And you're going to need club budget in order to do these. I mean, it's great because you can get such quick turnaround on your graphics and your images. But again, whoever's handling the marketing for your club is going to be able to, it needs to have that budget to work with. Canva, if you feel like you're pretty clever at doing graphic design yourself, you can use Canva. Can I see a show of hands for those who are using Canva or have heard of Canva? Looks like more using Canva. Okay, I would classify those as the advanced individuals then, because in Canva you can go in and create your own. So essentially you're the graphic designer. Both, it's very user friendly. I think Canva is like what used to be the Nokia phone for people that are doing their own graphics. Very user friendly. You can upload your images and logos, design your own event covers, and it has all the formats already preset out for you. So as long as you know what you want to do, you can go in and do it on Canva. So definitely encourage you to check both of these platforms out and see which ones you'd like to use. And for these, this is what you're going to be using to create your posts, your event banners, your covers, and basically anything to promote anything you've got coming up with your Rotary Club. I'm going to take you into Fiverr a little bit to show you what logging a job looks like. And I think it's a fantastic platform, so user-friendly. You, on the left, you've got a job being uploaded. So what I've done is I've picked my graphic designer, and that's her up there where it says SPL CMM. And I'm giving her a little bit of a description of what I want from the graphic. I've uploaded my logos and any images and even examples of something I've seen that I'd like her to sort of emulate. Next, you can see, you know, you've got your information about where your delivery is, where it's at, and with Fiverr, it's a 24-hour turnaround for the designer to get back to you with what she's done. Then you have unlimited modifications that you can request until they've got it nailed, and then you can accept the delivery, and then you've got your high resolution graphic to download and use for across whatever platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. You do need to specify which platform they're designing for, and it's also important to make sure that you request mobile optimization so that it looks good on a mobile phone, basically, because otherwise they are designing to create graphics that are meant to be viewed on PCs.
But we've just asked a question there. Do you not find yourself in situations where you need to have both?
You do, and you can request both. I find, and great question, thank you, Paul. I find that I'm always requesting mobile graphics, simply because most people are using their mobile phones to do all their, you know, searching and what have you. And if you don't request mobile, then it comes out, everything's cut off on both ends and you don't get the full picture. So, but again, you can request both and they won't have a problem with that, but they are modifying the margins and everything and changing the image to make sure it all fits correctly for mobiles. Is there any other questions before I move on from Fiverr? I can't get to the next screen, unfortunately. Oh, here we go. All right. Now, what I've done here is I've brought up examples of some what I would call beautiful posts. And the thing that I regret here is that all these beautiful posts are ones that I've done. So it's a little bit of a, you know, fluffing my own feathers here. But I guess there are key aspects that I'd like you to look at. With this post, when we were promoting polio, there's about 9 images, and what's important is when you are uploading multiple images for a post, play around with it a little bit and just check what looks best. And again, people are glancing at these things, and you know, for the most part, they don't know why, but they know when they see something they like, and it's all to do with the aesthetics and margins. So with this post, what I've done, it's, as you all probably know, people are a bit fatigued when with fundraising posts. So you have to make sure they look really good. And with this one, what I've done is I've changed the font on the first line just to do something a little bit different and catchy. And you see, I've got on the right, you can Google Facebook fonts and it'll bring up a few options, and LingoJam is one of them. And what it'll do is it'll give you the different fonts that you can then paste back into Facebook so that you've got something catchy and bold for that first line. Another thing that I want you to be careful of is make sure your margins look good with the text that you lay out. You're telling the story, but it all has to look great. And so you can see with this post, what I mean by the margins is, for the most part, the paragraph is laid out very nicely. You've got great descriptions. And with Rotary posts, you know, for most other posts or most other, whether it's business or corporate or even personal, I would almost say try keep them as short as possible. But with Rotary, people are expecting to get more of a story. So whilst you are still trying to keep it as succinct as possible, you know, don't be afraid to include more information about what's going on, or as much relevant information as you can. But just remember that first line has to really capture their attention, those first 3 lines. I've got a few more examples coming up just to give you a better idea on how to lay out the posts. And I'm sorry, but there's a little bit of a delay moving into the next slides. With this, we will be sharing the presentation with you after. So I won't dive too deep into the notes that I've got here. So I'd ask you to go through and have a look at them at your leisure. But they're just ideas on how to actually structure your posts about being positive, making sure that you interact with people who do comment on your page so that you can maintain that engagement, because you are building a community of followers when you, in terms of your Facebook posts on your page. This is another of, you know, my most, you know, recent favorite posts, and Melissa's here and she can take credit for that one as well. This is the Rotary of Lautoka post, and I think this is fantastic and just a perfect example of what Rotary posts should look like. So I gave it a 10 out of 10 in terms of the images that were provided. You can see you've got the boxes, the food packs that were prepared for these COVID affected families. You know, beautiful graphic image of Melissa handing over the boxes to the families, a little kid in a wheelbarrow, and then some group shots afterwards. I really love those photos. And if you look at the post itself, again, perfect explanation of what's going on, but importantly, tagging in the relevant clubs or people if it's another project, because this draws their attention to the fact that you've shared something or that they're being highlighted. So you can see Rotary Club of Lautoka is tagged, Rotary Club of Otahuhu is tagged, one of their partners for this project, and then you've got hashtags at the bottom. Now, 3 to me is the perfect amount of hashtags to use, and it's even better if they can fill out the line just so, and it all fits again with those nice margins. And we're going to cover the hashtags to use as well a little bit further down, because they are important. Now, the post I showed you before, because it looks so good, it performed well organically. And what I mean by organically is that we haven't boosted or put any advertising funds on the post. You would have noticed it had 36 likes, and I think that's great for an organic engagement levels, which is just people that have seen it in the feed and liked it. This post is one of the first ones that we actually boosted from the district page, and this was about the charter in Rotary Tarawa. So what I've got is, you can see that the way the post is laid out, but the next image shows the response to that boosting or what we call advertising, an advertising campaign. Now it's quite simple. We'll go into it a little bit further. But you can see that $5 was spent on that post, and you can see the engagement has jumped up to 125 people have liked the post, and then you can see the people that are reached is 5,200. So you think about the eyes that have gone across that post, and that's what we're really, really looking for, and that's what I'm hoping is going to be your real takeaway from this. Now, the way Facebook's algorithms work is that they don't show everything to everyone, and the only way they'll only show people what they know they really want to see. Now, if you can imagine how many people you're connected to and how many pages you've liked, you'll know that you don't see everything that you've liked or followed, or any person you've followed. Facebook has identified what you like to see and what everyone likes to see, but the only way you can override those algorithms is to actually boost your posts. So this is really important, because if you think about it, you're going to be spending time creating these wonderful posts, but if you don't boost them, it's the same as yelling into an empty room. Nobody's going to see it. Only the people that regularly follow and engage with your page are going to see your content. So again, this is where the marketing budget comes back in again. It doesn't cost a great deal. For the most part, I spend $3 or $5, depending on how important the post is, but I will boost the important content. So we're going to go into the, and once you do a post, you'll see the boost button is right there, and that's where you then start to take advantage of these opportunities. Now, what I've got here is when you actually go in, can I get a raise of hands for anyone who's actually tried to do a Facebook ad or boost any content? Okay, see, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's fantastic. 4, 5. Okay. All right. So we do have a few Facebook advertising veterans in here. That's great. Again, once you do go into it and start playing around with it, you'll realize it's actually very simple. And once you do set up your audiences, they will stay. I do recommend customizing and changing your audiences based on different types of posts. We especially do this for the district page because we know that we're creating content from different clubs in different districts. But what will happen is you go in and you'll start to edit and choose those demographics. For our Kiribati post, because I wanted it to be seen by that audience, we've gone into the Kiribati audience, and I've just gone 18 to 65 in terms of it, and that is all. And that's because I wanted that post to go into that demographic. But you'll be able to set up your regions. You can select specific audiences and really nail it down. It can be your own district, it can be your community in your area. You can go out in an area radius, or you can go New Zealand wide, you can go statewide. You'll see once you start playing around, and they will stay there in the audiences that you've created. And every time you decide to boost a post, you can go into that preset audience selection that you've got. Does anyone have any questions before I move on from the advertisements, or are you comfortable to have a fiddle around and play with this? You all good?
No
Oh, that's
questions
great.
in the chat, so.
Okay, that's fantastic. Some of the things that I wanted to point out, just to make sure that when you do set your budget, it is a minimum of about $1.30 a day. Typically what I tend to do is I go for the minimum, which is 3 days for about $3.60, I think it comes up to. And that gives me the coverage that I'm looking for out of the posts that I really want to share. And you'll be able to, once your ads is finished, it'll ask you if you want to continue it, if you want to add more money. But just be mindful when you are about to post something, just be mindful that you have limited, because it does have defaults for the budget. It will default to $25, right? So make sure that you've gone in and you changed your date. So you put it to your 3 or 5 date span, and you change and you put your budget in there. Now, on to hashtags. One of the main reasons we wanted to have this session is that we're wanting to come up with more efficient ways to find your posts, because the district is also going to be looking at the content that you create, because we want to share it. You've seen that how we shared a Rotary Lautoka Club, a Rotary Tarawa Club, but we want to be able to see everybody else's content, and the only way to do that is to make sure that everyone's using the right hashtags. We've selected a hashtag that we want everyone to start using, and we're going to start putting that out, and that's that highlighted Rotary Pacific one. So I mentioned before, 3 hashtags is good. So we'd ask that you use Rotary Pacific, because we'll be checking this hashtag and looking at your club content. And then you can choose another 2. It could be the motto, which is Rotary Opens Opportunities. And then it could be one more hashtag that is directly relevant to the post that you have. It might be a disaster response, fighting disease, polio, but that way you'll have your 3 hashtags, and we would ask that you start using those so that we can all find your content, but not just us, so that you can also find each other's. The other thing we'd ask you to do is to always tag the district in any of your content, and that is the Rotary District 9920, especially if it's work that you're doing in relation to projects and things that you know that we like to see and share. And this will also prompt us to engage with your content as well, and include that not just in our socials, but it will also make include it in the website and in the magazine. The only way that we can find at the moment, it's a very labor intensive process. They're going through and reading the bulletins, and we'd really like to move away from that. So I hope you've taken a note of that, because we are going to start adapting that hashtag Rotary Pacific across all posts. And there's going to be a big push for that. Here we've got developing a social media strategy, and we've got America here, and she's also in the social media environment, and would also know that this one topic is massive. But again, like everything, if you want to start doing something well, you need a strategy, and your social media is not any different from that. And if you are thinking about sitting down and starting to do really effective social media, you do need to set up a strategy for your club. And also goals. One of the first goals that I set for our district page and also our club page, Rotary Tarawa, is I wanted to get to the first 1,000 followers. Now, back to where I was covering off optimization and people's impressions when they're coming across their pages, you're coming across your pages. One of the things that they're also looking at is how many followers do your socials already have. And if they can see, if you're over 1,000, then they'll automatically assume it's great content. That first 1,000 is really, really hard. So make no mistake about that. It's going to be a big slog to that first 1,000 followers, but after that, things should start to tick along quite nicely, because it does affect people's impressions and engagement levels.
Ruth, can I just interrupt you there for a minute? Because I think there was a really important question by Sheena about the difference of using a hashtag versus the @ as part of that bottom Rotary Pacific. What's the difference between the two?
That is a really good question. Now, the @ sign, that draws our attention, and that's the district. So that means it will be seen by whoever is tagged in that @ whether you've tagged another club, whether you've tagged the district, it draws our attention to your post, right? But when you use a hashtag, anyone who's searching that hashtag and anyone who's doing a similar project can just click on that hashtag, and your post will come up with all the others that are using that hashtag. And it also forms a bit of an archive, because that will then remain. So anytime you want to find that post again, or if you want to find that post again, or anyone who's curious to know what's being done in, say, Rotary Water or Rotary Polio, anyone who's looking for post and content can just click on that hashtag and can be brought to yours along with anyone else's posts that has used that hashtag.
Ruth, would it be right to say that the @ sign is for a person or a group, whereas the hashtag is for a thing or content?
Perfect. Yes, absolutely, Ursula.
Cool.
Thanks,
We've
Ruth.
also got
No problem.
America has made a comment here talking about capitalizing each word in the hashtag. It cues screen readers to speak each word out loud rather than mushing all the sounds together.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a great point. Thanks, America.
And we're just having to move along as well, just for time there, Ruth, so I'll let you continue.
Sure, thank you. Now, these things I'll leave for you to have a look at and familiarize yourself with, but this is another tip that I'd like to include, is the rule of thirds. Anyone who's wondering, okay, what sort of content can I create for my club? This rule of thirds will give you some good ideas that, you might not have projects going, but your club members are interesting people. You've done things in the past, and there's all kinds of things. So I've included a few different ideas on that you can hopefully include So here I've got some content ideas. Feel free to note them down and use them once you're starting to think about developing content. I'm going to move to videos because we do want to start encouraging people to start doing videos. And I'll talk some more on that later on. I've included a few shots from different Instagram accounts and posts that I'd like to draw your attention to as well. Rotary International, now that's obviously going to be always going to be a great example of how Instagram is to be used. But I wanted to include this club from South America because they're using themes really well. So if you're wondering how to set up your Instagram and what ideas you can get, you can definitely go and take a look at these clubs and see what they're doing. Rotary Oceania did a fantastic post using hashtags and photos, and you can see they've got great engagement. The themes that the South American club, and what I mean by that is you can see they've got their logo over every photo. Then you've got Rotary International, who are just using beautiful, beautiful images that tell all the stories that they need to in order to show. Sorry, my slides don't move very quickly. More tips in there, and I've taken those photos from Rotary International just to show you what I meant. But we'll move on to the videos now. Is anyone doing videos on their pages and their content yet? No, Farida is. Liz, fantastic. Fantastic. And I'm sure you've all heard videos would be absolutely some of the best ways to tell a story, and people love them. And I've included a video editor app in here that if you're wanting to foray into this, I highly recommend it. Viva Video will take the clips that you've got on your phone. There are plenty of PC video editing softwares, but Viva is great on the phone. It'll put captions in, it'll put music in, and it can really help your videos jump to that, next level of looking a lot more professional. Now, just in closing, oh, sorry, Brian, Brian's got a question with what's the ideal length of the video. I would say keep it short, 1 minute. For if it's you talking or if it's covering off anything a small if you're just looking at engaging content, 1 minute. But if you've got something that you've properly edited and it's telling a story and it's talking about a project and it's got the subtitles going across, then you can stretch it out to about 3 minutes, I think, before you start to lose people's attention. Any other questions on videos? Okay, great. Now, in closing, I just wanted to go, just let you know what's going to happen next from the public image team in relation to your socials. One of the things that I'll be doing in about a month's time is a bit of an audit, and I'll be going across all the different clubs' pages and just having a look at all those, some of the tips that I've suggested, and also just to see what people are doing and then start making recommendations. And I'll probably start with those who've actually done this workshop first. So you'll know when the audit's happening, because we'll start to engage with your content and you'll start seeing notifications from the district. And what we'll do is we'll just make sure, see what you're doing, make some recommendations, and then also work with you a little bit more directly at that point if you'd like some help and to start going deeper into some of the things that you're interested in. That's it from me. Again, I tried to keep it short and just cover off the important points, but yeah, if you've got any questions or anything you'd like me to elaborate on a little bit further, over to you.
When you say that we use the social media format, is that you're talking about being able to view it on a phone as well? Or is there a place you go and get the format?
Is this back when I was talking about the graphic designers and
just a slide back when you're talking about videos? One more
format, probably in terms of Instagram or Facebook, or is that what you mean, Ruth?
Yeah.
Yes, what I mean with is that this particular software, this Viva Video, that's only on phones, right? So this is if you're doing video editing, you can only download this software to use on your phone. If I can't actually find it to use on the computer, but I was just saying that there are plenty of other video editing softwares that you can use on your computer. But this is a phone one. And the reason why I included this one is because if we're going to start doing videos for social media, the things that you're going to be taking a video on your phone, or you're going to be filming yourself talking, so that footage is going to be on your phone. So you're going to need a video editing software that's on your phone as well, that can grab those videos, grab photos off your phone and caption everything. And that's what this particular software is for.
Thank you.
It's an app you can download.
Cool. Right,
Yes.
we'll move on, I think, if nobody else has got any more questions.
Great. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Ruth. That was awesome. And I think next we are turning to Farida. Is that right?
That's right. So do I get the remote, or I'm happy to go even otherwise? So
You can.
You need to ask to be the remote
yes,
controller.
so there you go. I've sent in a request.
I'm not seeing it.
Yes.
Ah, there you are.
You see it now?
I do. You're now in control, Farida.
Okay, but I can't get the.
There's a bit of a lag on the slides.
You
Just
can't
FYI.
see.
There you are. I can see your mouse on the
it.
screen now.
Yeah.
There you are.
Okay. Okay. So how to make a media splash. So I'm in between the social media queens, because after me, that's going to be America, who's the director of the business development of interactive transitions. But before that, I'm going to have my little piece that I'm of the opinion, while we value the new media, which is the social media, undeniable, the benefit of traditional media, that is the news media, cannot be overlooked. And so integration is the key. And while you see this little cartoon of little Johnny saying, Dad, I'd like to record your bedtime stories on a podcast and put it on my website someday, the fact also remains that Dad may want to reflect on the traditional media. And having been a journalist and having edited several newspapers and magazines, I do believe that it takes both to play an important role. Of course, what's very important, and looking at it from a broader lens, is that it all depends on your audience. Not every story, or not all the good work that you do may necessarily be on the traditional media. That is, you may not always have a story out of it, but you certainly can work on it in terms of sharing it on social media. That's what we do now. Oh, the slide's not moving. What we do is we're writing stories, then uploading it on our website, posting it on social media, and feeding it on Instagram. And by the time it's time for the next story, and you hardly have time to work on it. But what we're doing is juggling a lot of media platforms, and that is the need of the hour today. Having said that, I work for the Times community newspaper, and I was just browsing through the website, and we've done hundreds of stories on the work Rotary does. I would love to take the credit for it. Sorry, I think we missed that slide. But anyways, I'd love to take the credit for it. No, it's all about relationships. We've had lots of Rotary clubs in East Auckland who are very connected to the media. And that's the reason why we've written loads about Hawick Rotary Club. Currently, they are working on Bookorama. They advertise with us. We've done lots of editorials, and all their events are always a success, whether it's the Fun Run, it's Bookorama, or then the Pakuranga Rotary Club. They've been in touch with us, and we've done lots of stories, especially with Sylvie Wilkinson, who's very proactive, always calls up. So coming to how do you approach anyone in the media with a story idea? So whether it's television, it's radio, or the print media. So before you approach a newspaper editor or a journalist, it's important to do your spade work, to do your homework. So have you thought about who you're going to contact? And more importantly, what's the hook to your story? How are you going to make it worth their while? Everyone is very time poor. As I said, journalists are constantly juggling with the print media and the social media. And so is it going to be worth their while? Do you have an interesting angle to share? Of course, if you have somebody like me working, it's easy, because I'm a Rotarian. But jokes aside, what you need to do is find out more about the kind of stories that journalist is working on. Is it their beat? And once you know the contact details, email your storyline to them. Tell them you've got the right photographs to go with it, or if it's a big event, please invite them for the event. And do not expect them to buy tickets to the charity event. It's funny, I have had a couple of women's organization who often used to invite me, they still do, and they expect me to buy a ticket. You must remember that this is work. This is like they're going outside their working hours. And one of the rules of the game is that if it's an evening event, do send 2 tickets to them for a big event so that they can come along with, friend, partner, or whatever. But just make sure that you're looking after them and create a relationship with the journalist so that anytime you have a story, all you have to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, I've got a good story. I've got some lovely pictures. Would you like to cover it? So it's interesting that the internet has made it easier to communicate, but far more challenging to be heard. And so, like I was saying, it's not just what you say, but how you say it. Wanted to share this with you sometime in February this year, just before COVID changed our lives. We had this group of 30 Rotarians who had come on a goodwill exchange trip from India. And our club had the privilege of coordinating that trip, and they wanted to traverse the length and breadth of New Zealand, meeting different, Rotary clubs along the way. It was awesome. We did, of course, get a couple of articles in the media, but this was far more exciting. So when they were in Christchurch, one of the Rotarians contacted Breakfast, and there you are. All 30 of them were on Breakfast News, and it was fantastic because the reach was tremendous. I mean, these guys just went for breakfast to a cafe, and the owner of the cafe shouted them all free breakfast, all 30 of them. They said, we saw you on television, we realized the wonderful work that Rotary does, and this is the least I can do as a owner of the cafe. And these guys were over the moon. They were like, wow, you guys, Kiwis are so cool. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, it was the public image that told a story. And because they were on television, the media had written about them. And of course, there was, we posted lots of things about our different events on social media as well. We'd created that. Talking of which, I just wanted to quickly share I personally experience the impact that Rotary makes. So when I was president of the club last year, I'm so used to being introduced as somebody from the Times or from the media. I went for an event and our local MP, Simeon Brown, introduced me to someone saying she's not only the editor, deputy editor of the Times, but she is the president of Rotary Club, or, Somerville Rotary. And I just saw the change of expression and people saying, oh, is that so? Oh, I actually saw respect for the first time. And to me, that was because it's kind of the image that we've created over here. We've constantly been written about in magazines, in the newspaper, and it's all about telling your story. So at the end of the day, I believe that each one of us is the best ambassador. It's how you promote your own brand. I've been to clubs in Canada, especially one in Vancouver, where I have met this amazing woman who is a Rotarian. She calls herself #RotaryGeek, and lots and lots of posts, lots and lots of following. And when Debbie, that's her name, Debbie Vance, when she's going through things, she shares them. She's moving house, she shares them. She's having a breakdown, she shares it. But what I find fascinating is that hundreds of Rotarians are posting things like, oh, we're still there for you. So it's also about the bond we create, the connections we make with Rotarians. It's not only about us serving, doing service, but it's also about how Rotary helps you. What has Rotary done for you? So share your Rotary moments, and don't only share it on your club page, but share it on your own personal Facebook page as well. Like Ruth already mentioned, create videos, little things like when my mom passed away and our Rotary Club gave me a beautiful rose plant. To me, that's the most precious things. And I think sharing those kind of things with people, or when I go and interview people for the Times, if I find that somebody's fitting into the Rotary mold, I often spend at least 5 to 10 minutes telling them all about Rotary, and that's starting conversations. That's something that they're definitely going to think about or contribute in some way, or connect, or be a partner, be a donor. And I know that I can knock on their door when I'm having my next event, just talking about Rotary. Also testimonials that come straight from the heart. Our Rotary Club had this young Rotary scholar who came from Texas, and he's studying here, or he's studying medical prosthetics. And Rotary is helping him. He said he could have never come here. He didn't have the money. And so somebody told him about Rotary in the US, and he contacted a Rotary Club. And I think it's the Rotary Harborside that sponsored him. But just his heartfelt testimonial that how he's going to make a difference to everyone's lives. And it's only thanks to Rotary, because Rotary enabled him to do it. And we would have loved to have his little video as well, but unfortunately running short of time and we couldn't do that. But that's what I'm saying, that all of us are ambassadors. And that's me for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Farida. Oh, that's a lot of echo. Sorry, was that just me or did everyone? So I think at the moment, if you just go one more slide, Farida.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen has control now.
Over to you then, Ellen.
Doesn't look like it's going to go. We tried it before. There's something wrong, so I'm going to give it up. Okay. John, can you shift it down for me? So I think that it's important, but just before we take a break, I think it's important for you to understand, is there a right or wrong way in creating stories, no matter what media outlet you're using? And I think with Farida and with Ruth, just in this last hour. If we're careful about what we're doing, we can actually have a bigger impact on our audiences, and it spreads out not only, and you'll hear from Liz later on, it doesn't only just remain in your community, it goes worldwide in terms of what we're trying to achieve. And that can make your message from your club stand out. Imagine being in America or in Europe or someone, and they receive a posting via your club, and they suddenly have interest in your club and interest in what you are doing. So that's really important. Next slide. I think it's a Kit Kat slide.
The next one says time for a break.
Lovely.
Time for a break. That was well timed. It's 4 o'clock.
Was. Well done.
So 5-minute break, team. You're not to go and look at the rugby on the TV. I hope you've got it recorded, and I expect you to be back here in 5 minutes' time.
It's kicking off about now, isn't it?
I don't want to know that, John.
It is recording, though.
Please.
Right, we're back on track and we're back in presentation.
Good. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. And I'm just going to do a small segment about audiences, because there's a lot of confusion about who our audience might be and what do they connect to. And it's interesting to think that, am I going to start, and I use the word preaching in a very layman's term, to the converted within my club or within Rotary? Or do I really want to grasp those who are outside in the community who need to be heard or hear what you say? And that's the fact that you care about their communities, you care about the geographic concerns within the world they're operating in. And that's even more so now within different ethnicities and social areas where we once saw people who were seen to have really good jobs and occupations, etc. And then with the COVID level, all of a sudden they've lost their occupation as well as their job, and they have retraining, etc. So make sure you understand your audience. And one way of doing that is, and we were just talking about it, connections. Where are our connections? Do you have a connection with your MP or local politician? Do you have a connection with some of your local councils and councillors? I know that within St. John's we have a great relationship with Deasley Simpson, who has a lot of understanding about culture, the council, and influence in there. So that is really important in terms of that. Next slide, John. So if we look at that, you've got to be able to engage with them. And quite often, when I look at, and that's in some ways what we haven't covered about Facebook or messages, don't be boring. Have the courage to do things differently, because that's the way to gain attention. You've got to be able to move and use the system effectively to go outside the club and speak to the communities. And to be able to do that and have an engagement that has emotion. So even in these slides, they all depict different emotions in terms of who the audience could be, whether it's an individual or a group. Last slide, John. And how does that convert into a Rotary message? And I've just picked on this in terms of support Rotaractors as they run the Auckland Marathon. And this is trying to get funding for GSAF, which is Give Every Child a Future program. And this is the Rotaract organisation here in the district who are starting to gain support and gain sponsorship for this really good cause. They haven't done that internally. They're not looking at Rotary members. They're looking outside the Rotary world in order to gain greater influence and greater engagement from them. And if you look at that posting, it's got an important message, but it's also got emotion in it. It's got the fun story there coming across the Harbour Bridge, and it's got the child story there. And the key message is, yes, I'm going to support. It's as simple as that. It's how you are effective in knowing who your audience is. So you've heard Farida say, research or plan, whether it's media in print or within the social media world. It's important that you look at, do I want to step outside, or is this just purely information for my members? Because you never know where this story will end up, and you target your audiences. It's an interesting conundrum when we think about how it links, your stories linked to membership opportunities. And the membership opportunity is interesting because there's a lot of talk about the new formats of Rotaract clubs, etc. But within the New Zealand dynamics, the highest or biggest growing population is those who are retiring or thinking about retiring between 60 and 65. And they are the ones who have got some money in their back pockets. They are the ones who are looking to, oh, what's next? What am I going to do? All of a sudden, I'm losing my role or my position in life, and I'm just going to become a retiree. This is an area of influence that could gain membership. And it's those stories and those efforts that can come back. You'll see when I come back later on behalf of Colin, because Colin apologizes not being here today because he's doing his qualification for Coast Guard on a new boat. And so I'm going to be preparing Colin later on, which I don't try and duplicate, by the way, because he is so well informed in terms of social media and websites. But I just wanted, as we go through this next hour, I want you to think about and to really consider, who is my audience when I'm posting and working through? So John, going to shift to America. You there, America?
I am. Hello.
Good.
So,
Have you requested to take control of the slides?
I have, and it appears that I do have control of John's screen. And I've just posted a question in the chat box, and that is, what is Rotary anyway? So pop quiz, you can see my college, my university hat coming out. But I want everybody to type into the chat box really quickly, what is Rotary? So, and this isn't a right answer, this isn't a wrong answer. Part of it is I want you to be hands-on and awake and engaged and interactive and everything. But also, I want to show some of the different perspectives that we all bring when we talk about Rotary. And as I say this, you can probably tell that I'm American. So I grew up in Eagle Pass, Texas, on the US-Mexico border. I'm a past president of the Rotary Club of Suva East. I was an exchange student to Germany. My son was a Rotaractor in Fiji and now in Toronto. And in case you're wondering, yes, I have voted in the 2020 US presidential election. My ballot is going all the way off to the United States. So, all right, answers are coming in. Ursula said Rotary is service above self. Peter is saying people committed to a better world. Farida is saying family. Let's see. It's scrolling on me here. Ursula, Rotary is community connections. Brian says fellowship. Sheena says a worldwide community of people who change the world in many different ways. Wow, there's a lot in here. Okay, the exercise works. We could use the chat box. So I found this definition a while back about what Rotary is, and it's together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe in our communities and ourselves. And I really like that. And this slide is outdated. I need to add climate to it. But Rotary does some really amazing work. And living in a developing nation, I see this every single day. And if you're not familiar with these, you know, tattoo them on your fingers so you can be like, da, 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 as you go through there, because it's a really amazing organization that I'm proud to be a part of. And it's literally changed my life and the lives of everybody in my family. As I mentioned, 4 of his siblings were exchange students. My son's a Rotaractor. It's really, really important and makes a difference in our world. We work differently. We see things differently. We're not coming into this like development professionals. We talk about development aides parachuting in, not understanding the situation on the ground. One of the things that I've noticed in friendship exchanges and some of the different tours to Canada, to Mexico, to the United States, to Germany, oh goodness, where else have I been with Rotary? These are people who live in the communities and they understand the history, they understand the networks, they understand how it all works together. And then we apply leadership and expertise to the social issues. We act responsibly, we live here. We have to live with the repercussions. And we end up making a difference at home and around the world. And our members are found everywhere. It always amazes me where we'll see a pin. People will come up and say that. So let's talk about Fiji. And yes, this is a photo that I took probably about a week ago. They're not shark, they're mullets. They have yellow tails, but the water is that crystal clear. And please come visit me. I want to visit you. I want you to come here. So the Rota Pacific Study Tour is an incredible initiative. Fiji and other South Pacific members send promising professionals to New Zealand for a 2-weekend residence leadership program. When I went for my SPETS workshop, so my first experience was the president, when I joined, saying, this has not been a good return on our investment. It's a lot of work, it's expensive, it's a hassle, sometimes they don't get the visa. The list of problems just went on and on and on. Then when I went to New Zealand, I heard, we're not sure if we want to continue this at the same level, the same numbers, everything, because the students don't always, sorry, university hat again, these young professionals don't always do well. And yet, when I talked to them, when I talked to the former Rylarians, they loved it. They really, really enjoyed it. And so I'm like, okay, what can we do to improve the situation? So part of this was literally shoe leather. It was walking into the meetings for Rotaract in Suva, Rotaract in Nadi, Rotaract in Lautoka. Part of it was talking to folks, them saying, oh, so-and-so went to RYLA, so-and-so is a Rotaractor, and it was the individual personal connections. So followed up with the invitation to come speak at the Rotary Club. It is very flattering, especially when you're a young professional, to come be invited to be a speaker. I'm an experienced speaker and I'm very flattered to have been invited today. It's really nice. You put a lot of your time and your effort into it, and it's a compliment that shows that you really appreciate the professional look at everything. We invited the alumni to participate in the RYLA selection process, the RYLA recruiting and selection process. Of course, we budgeted it. We made community announcements. So any event that we were at that looked like they had an engagement with young professionals, it's like, could I have a moment, please? Yes. We're accepting applications and, gave the date and everything. Could you please share the word? And we had we had short links using Bitly. I'm going to actually drop this down here. We did short links using bit.ly, so we could actually track which links were being used and what they were doing, and also sent out one-to-one emails to community leaders about the opportunity. And technology is a force amplifier, so we were able to use our email announcements and reminders. I am going to take a side note here, and that is internal messages within our club. We use a Google group so that our club members don't have to remember who's in the club, who's not. We can email within the club only using, I think it's RCSE members at googlegroups.com. So if you've been in the club for 5 days, 5 years, that will reach all the current members. And our secretary is responsible for making sure that it's an accurate address, it's up to date, and everything else. But then we have 3 MailChimp lists. It's a mail newsletter list, and we use them as appropriate. So we have one list where everybody that comes to a meeting is on there. We have another one that is past event attendees. So they don't come to every meeting, but they are interested in coming to fun events, exciting events, fundraisers, things like that.
Oops.
Or grooming to join our club. You have the
breaking up to us, America, but
club website to Facebook and to Twitter, and we try to use different images for every one of those and get it so that we're not doing a lot of extra work. And then when it comes to RYLA, I will go to the alumni and I'll say, could you please share this experience? Again, it's that personal connection. We were talking about algorithms and how to get around them. Well, Fiji's really small. We have less than 1 million people. And so I really want to find the folks who are really passionate about community service. And one of the ways to find them is by using folks who were previously really involved, really into community service. And so having the alumni and the Rotaractors boost our social media posts has just led to really amazing outreach. And also it helps build that relationship. You know, they're like, oh, I've done something. I've gotten involved there. The relationships have to be fed. It's like a plant. And so one of the things I make a point of going to a Rotaract changeover, again, my son is a Rotaractor, so this is something that alternately he's super happy I'm there and not so happy I'm there. But it's something that comes easy to me with my experience working with university students and young professionals, and also because of the age of my family. But also thank you notes and thank you calls to nominators, because if they sent me somebody amazing this year, chances are they already have their eye out this year for next year's applicants as well. And then in the course of the year, I'll check in with the alumni to see what they're preparing for in the new year. They're going to have schedule conflicts. They are young professionals, some have them new families and such. So the toolbox, these are just some of the things that made the process easier. We strip out the information for the clubs, and so our applicants only see the information that's relevant to them. I give them a checklist, which I actually use myself when I go through the paperwork to make sure our applications are complete and good. We really encourage club visits, because I want people who are going to persist, not just show up, but stick around. And they might not make it this year. We had a young man, he came, he gave a practice presentation to our club. He was amazing, and he didn't apply. And when I asked him why not, he said, well, I looked at the dates and I have to go to Samoa to compete in an international basketball tournament. So I'm not gonna try and apply and, you know, end up using a spot that I can't use. And I'm like, oh my goodness, next year. I want you next year. Of course, this year is COVID. But we really encourage making that connection, because if all he had ever done was apply, or if he had decided not to apply because of the dates, we wouldn't have that connection. So going from the offline into the online, going from online into the offline world, the real world, the facial connections, you know, getting to know them. Also here in Fiji, it's small, knowing who their family are, knowing what their business connections are and everything else really, really reinforces this. Our RILA selection process is very developmental, and the idea, we learn by failing, but sometimes the consequences of failure are really great, and so we play it safe and we don't let ourselves fail. So with this experience, with the practice presentations, the club visits, and the follow-up different activities, we give a chance for our delegates to make little mistakes before they go out, you know, into the big wide world, and hopefully they work out really well, things go really well. We also model the networking and, you know, how to make introductions, how to introduce themselves if nobody else has done the introduction. We try to give specific feedback as often as possible, and this is through everything, through the practice presentations, through the club visits, through their actual interview process, and so on. And then of course the candidates and delegates are supported through the process. And what this does is gives our alumni the chance to be involved. We ask for a selection board from the Rotary clubs in Suva, because this gives them a chance to be involved, the vocational education support. And it just really, it gives people a reason for being there. So this part here, and I know everyone can type in here, is when you think about how can my club boost its public image, what I want you to do is think about, why do other people want to know about you? And this is not, why do I want them to know about me? What is it that they're going to get out of this? And in my case, with the Rota Pacific Study Tour, they have the chance to go abroad for 2 weeks and make incredible connections. We had a young man who went to the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, and I feel like he's told everybody in Fiji how amazing the experience was to connect with an economist at the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, because he is an economist at the Reserve Bank of Fiji, and he loved it. And so Rotary has the ability, oh my goodness, one of our attorneys had the chance to meet a Rotarian who wrote his law school textbook. And, you know, this is something where Rotary has the ability to make those introductions, to create those experiences. And that's something that I want future candidates Rotarians who become Rotaractors, who become Rotarians, to know about, because it's good for them. It's a cool experience, but it's also good for them professionally. It builds confidence, all those things. Also, who do we want to reach? In this particular example, it's really simple. I'm looking for folks between the ages of 22 and 28. I'm looking for somebody who is a Fiji citizen and a Fiji resident. I do this very specifically using community leaders and so on. But you're thinking about, who do I want to reach and who's going to do it? In this case, it's me, but sometimes it's done by the alumni, sometimes it's done by the Rotaractors and everything else. People want to know what you are doing. There's a question in the chat box here about how do you convert the Rylarians to Rotaractors. We work with the Rota Pacific Study Tour recipients. From the time, oh goodness, the applications come in January, and so we start making contact with them in January. And of course, they're invited to our club, but we also start sending information out to them about Rotaract. And they can go to a Rotaract meeting and meet past delegates to learn more about the process. And our Rotaractors are super enthusiastic about it. They talk it up a lot. And so that gives them a home. So we didn't have a 2020 delegation, but the 2019 delegation, we were able to send 4 delegates from Fiji. All 4 of them joined Rotaract. And I'm trying to remember if I saw 2 or 3. The years are kind of blurring together. I know I saw a lot of our Rota Pacific Study Tour delegates, but I can't remember which years they were all for. But we're working, we don't just like, you know, meet them at the doors, say congratulations, you've been selected, and then we see them at the airport. We actually work with them on an ongoing basis, answer all their questions and everything else. So yeah, so the 5 W's are who, what, where, when, why. Who, what, where, when, why, yes. And so if you go through all those different questions, generally you've got some pretty good information about what you're going to do there. So my next slide is a discussion question. I can leave this up, or I can leave it on discussion. So do you want the rainbow, or do you want discussion questions?
That's fine, America.
Okay. So
is there any questions from America? Because her case study is a great example where she's using the personal touch alongside the technology of social media to gain a message for their own community.
My question is, I mean, you've already answered part of it, but Rotary does a lot of stuff like for students, including sponsoring them for the science thing at the university and things like that. It's just about, and much as they all appreciate, and every Rylan you speak to says it was a life-changing experience, but we've not been able to convert that into them kind of like you've just mentioned, becoming a Rotarian or a Rotaractor or an interactor. So yeah, that's just the transition from, you know, yeah.
Yeah, there's a phrase called you manage what you measure. And so one of the things that we did with our evaluation sheet is we asked for a pocket project. We wanted every single applicant to have something that they were interested in. So if you had funding, if you had people, if you had permissions, you know, if you had all the green lights, what would you do? Where would you do it? And I wanted and for those, it wasn't a deal breaker if they applied and didn't have one, but before they left, I wanted every single one of our candidates, our delegates at that point, to have a pocket project that they wanted to see happen. And that fit in nicely to the that fit in nicely to the RYLA format, because they were able to think about something specific in mind that they could then pick up tools and learn more about. As they met the Rotaractors, they were able to be like, oh wow, we could do this, we could do that, and we could bring it together. So I need to go back and take a look, but I know that there is a book drive that started as a seed. It changes, of course, but it started as a seed from one of our RYLA candidates. And so that was the specific. We go from the theory and we bring it down to practice. So what's your pocket project? You know, who are you going to be helping? When do you want to go in? How much money do you need to make it happen? What's your time frame? All those kind of questions, because if they were going to be talking to a Rotarian in Auckland, I wanted them to be ready to answer the questions and not be like, yeah, I haven't really thought about that. I wanted them to be, you know, ready to answer all the questions that came at them. And of course, we practiced this when they came to our club meetings, when they went to the Rotaract meetings and everything else.
Thank you. So you invest quite a lot in them.
We do.
On a one-on-one basis.
Yes. It's also significant investment for our club because we pay for their airfare to go over, but then we also, many of them don't have a lot of the materials and stuff that they need to go over. So our clubs come together and we loan them a number of different items to take with them, backpacks, rucksacks, oh goodness, sweaters, you know, these kind of things. They get jackets and everything else when they get there. I think hiking boots as well. But we want to make sure that they're successful, and you know, it takes a village. So it also gives us a group for everyone to come through. There's a question from Sharon. I'm going back. Whoops, it looks like I can only go forward. I'm sorry, Sharon. I believe these are going through again. And we'll go through. The 5 questions were, how can my club boost its public image? The why was, why do people want to know about you? Who do we want to reach? What are we doing? Where is it happening? And when does what need to happen by? So that would have been the 5 W's right there. Who, what, where, when, why. So
Thanks, America.
Cool. Please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm readily available via all kinds of media. If you do a search on the hashtag Rotary Pacific, I've got a tweet up for today's session, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Looks like I need to send Kev my image, the modern version of what Rotary is. So I'm happy to do so.
Right, John, next slide.
Yep.
So in terms of managing websites and social media together, I think it's really important. There's no secret that having an online presence is really important. Next slide, John. Both a website and social media is becoming an important tool to clubs in their communication and how they deliver it. And it's becoming vital as part of a club strategy. Too often, if you look at a club's structure, the poor old bulletin editor becomes a social media editor or becomes the website guru inside a club without any real support. If clubs are going to be serious about social media, they need to have members who actually understand what the strategy of the club is within their communities, within their membership, and how they are going to engage across all those marketing channels. It's also important that, unfortunately, with a website and social media, as you've seen and heard, it takes time. And so you've got to make sure that the person who is managing this within your clubs has the time to post, to update, and ensure that your website reflects the good things you are saying on your social media site. Too often, your website becomes the poor cousin and becomes the area where you get forgotten about, and then becomes out of date. And that's a fallacy, because if you have a person in the community looking at social media with interest and then looks at your website, it goes, oh, hang on, why would I go there when they're so far out of date in comparison to their social media? So all of a sudden it turns up opportunities. Next slide, Tom. You've got to also, it's important to connect the two together, and that can be done through the areas here. But on this Facebook, make sure that you have your website in place. Each point is important, but all of these must be up to date. People want to speak to a real person. They want to have an organization. Facebook is about response times, and you will score a serious negative if you do not respond to messages within a short period of time. So if you do get messages back from your Facebook or social media postings, ensure that they are captured and ensure they are responded to. Have the option on your website or social media for a direct response. But it's interesting, we've highlighted that, and there is one thing there which has happened, is that it's spelt wrong. And if something is spelt wrong and they've responded to that, they'll either get a bounce back or they won't follow and they'll be left in a void. Too often we've had people wanting to join Rotary via the websites. It's gone out to the club, and yet no clubs have responded back to that person. So the old story is, if they don't reply back to me, why would I bother, and I'll go look elsewhere. So in terms of social media and membership, it's important that you work in unison and be accurate in what you do. How often do you pick up a news, sorry to pick on you here, Frida. How often do you pick up a newspaper and say, who wrote this? Look at the grammar. It's exactly the same. It is exactly the same. And
we have
Facebook,
that even on our Facebook, people asking like, oh, you know, correcting on the
Yeah.
Times Online Facebook, yeah.
Exactly. Next slide, John. If you have them linked, make sure you take opportunities with the like and the messages that are coming through. For an example, to use a logo inside a Facebook posting, make sure you've got the logo displayed inside your website as well, because you know the images of that linkage will mean that the continuity of the person who goes from Facebook to website will all of a sudden see that, yes, this is up to date, this is what I was looking for, and this is what I'm going to develop. It will only really help if your Facebook is active. If you're doing a Facebook posting once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it won't get the volume of interest if you're doing it twice or 3 times a week. And that's why Ruth is looking for the hashtag Rotary Pacific. Because if you link your postings to hashtag Rotary Pacific, in her role, she looks at those postings and says, wow, this is of interest. She passes it on to other clubs and through the district postings as well. So all of a sudden, your exposure is not just one club, it is 52 clubs. And you can take advantage of that by putting that simple hashtag into your posting. Next slide. The stories need to be about people. Understand that. Understand that there's a draw card and a relevant picture that tells 1,000 words. It is important to be able to understand that you connect the stories through your pictures as much as you do through your words. And by doing that, there is a continuity. If you look at the technology of branding, etc., branding is really important. I'll say that with Liz on here because she is a real brand guru. But the technical aspects doesn't take away the emotion of what you're saying in your Facebook and your media postings. The interesting stuff is that the 2 to 3 postings, Peter, may not be from your own club. It may be stuff that's coming in from the outside world, but it's still Rotary messages that you think would be valuable in Tonga. So think about what that will look like. Is it valuable to my audience? Would they be interested in it? If it's a peace message, is it a finance or economic message that Rotary has branding around? We can still utilize that. So connecting your stories, make sure that your URL is up to date and is accurate. And that will help the journey of that posting. Club stories are the basis of any website or Facebook content. But how often do we tell the story after the event? One of the things I would encourage you to do is start telling the story before the event, using past history, past photos. Come and join us message from the outside world. It is quite often, even during lockdown 1, we did a cleanup of the Glen Innes Creek, and we picked up a member from that effort. And she's still a fantastic member inside the club. Next slide. Don't try and put too much into your messages. So on the slide on the left is about the classroom environment, which is really important. But in fact, what's more important, look at the looks on these students' faces, how proud they are to get their English dictionary within that classroom. That has the emotion about it. That has the importance of the Rotary brand, the education and literacy program that it supports, and the outcome is there for all to see. And that grabs attention. I'm going through these pretty quickly because I'm conscious of time, and the next speaker is really important to us. Use the imagery on both platforms, whether it's social media or website. Use the connections, as I've said before. Another comment about posts is 90% of engagement or impressions reach happens in 4 hours after it's posted. So such a short snapshot of time. And that's why America and Ruth are constantly talking about increasing your chances by boosting your posting and spending that investment for that. Next slide. As a final comment, you've got to understand that your website is optimized for your responses from your social media. If your website isn't optimized, there will be a disconnect between the website. If I look at this here, it is just too much in some of this stuff. It crams it up. We've got to make sure our messages have their own picture within the website, that it has their own story. And the middle column there with the Rotary Coming events, the Bookorama and the art auction, that holds it up. It's interesting that with our membership and the invites to the book to the art auction or the invites to the social media training that we sent out, only 49% of our Rotary members open the emails. So if only 49% of our members are opening the emails, how can we go beyond that to ensure that our communities open those emails, or the communities meet our messages and understand that? And I think that it is important that you understand where that comes from. Because if we are going to attract members to belong to our projects and be involved, things are different. We are not the Rotary of old. Rotary has to change with the world, and we've seen that with Zoom meetings like today. We've seen that clubs changing their styles of meetings, and we have to change the styles of how we are advertising ourselves and how we're working. As America says, if you don't try or have the courage to try, how are you going to succeed? We're all allowed to make mistakes, very much so. But it's the more times you do it, the less mistakes you will make, and you will have advantages from that. So that's just a short view of the importance of linking the website to your social media to ensure that within your clubs, they are both being treated with respect and they are linking each other together. Next slide, John. I'm happy to take any questions, but I'm also happy if we move on to the next speaker as well. Anything, Ursula?
Postings a week is a lot. We don't have enough to put interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. You've got to search. Your community, I bet you there's a lot of stuff in your community that is interesting to the wider community rather than to Rotary members.
And also events like the End Polio, event that's coming up and where everyone can participate. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's also helpful to get a neighboring club, if possible, to share some of the stuff you're doing, and they'll tell you this is interesting stuff, that you should be promoting this. I mean, we get so used to doing the same kinds of service activities, the same type of fellowship activities. Sometimes I think we take them for granted. Whereas by bringing someone, another club in to have a discussion on this, we can help them highlight the things that they're doing that is interesting and exciting that they should be promoting, and they can do the same for us.
Absolutely right, Brian. That's a fantastic comment, because too often clubs work in silos without collaborating with the clubs around, and whether that's a competitive nature or what, I'm unsure. But if we can spread that collaboration through our stories, through our actions, you're absolutely right, Brian. There'll be greater interest in the stories that come along. Liz.
We've been doing that. In fact, on our Facebook page, we were promoting the Bookerama, which is hosted by another club. But it's a huge event, and yeah, evoked lots of interest.
Right, Liz, do you want to take control of your slides?
Yes, I'm just going to request that. Thank you. Thanks. Oh, right. It hasn't come through just yet.
It should have.
Have you got that?
Yep, you have now got control.
Oh, I can't find my...
There it is, it's working, Liz.
It is.
See you,
There's a bit of a lag time. Well, hello everyone. It's lovely to see you.
Liz, before you start, I just want to reintroduce you, because Liz Courtney has been involved in Rotary for a long time as a governor, past district governor, but her passion is around public image and how it's developed. And I've asked her to be here as a guest presenter, purely to show the direction in the world that your postings can go. So welcome, Liz. I know you're in Christchurch. I appreciate your help.
That's not a problem at all. It's lovely to be here. And just so that you can see this lovely slide at the beginning, this is a photo that I took at the Rotaract conference that I attended in Auckland. And it just shows that wonderful diversity of Rotaractors. So I love that photo, and it's one of the ones that just tells you a great story. They're having a great time, and we connected. Let's go on to these. So really, what is public image? It is incredibly important, because we know that we need to change it. We are in the middle of changing what we need to do around expressing the type of membership that we actually have now. And of course, people's opinion of us is important. We only need to see that we are all, a lot of us, of a retirement age, but is that really all we are? No, it's not. We know that we have got a lot of younger people who are interested, and those, of course, who are trying to establish themselves in the business world. So really, what is this all about? It is about telling your stories, as we've all heard before. And we're always on the lookout for a lot of new stories around really what we've got to do. But where do they start? Well, basically they need to start at the clubs. So what do you need? You need to identify people who actually really do have some good skills, as been said before. And also, right at the very beginning, Farida said you need to have a budget. And I totally agree with that. Sometimes it's not that easy to get a budget. They don't seem to understand the value of marketing within a club scenario. Many of our members may have come from a business world, but they have not had that hands-on experience of really being involved in the value of marketing, what we do. Talking about hashtags again, yes, exactly what Ruth talked about before, adding those things to be able to share our stories to a wider audience. So we need to really know what we need to do around taking a good photograph, around making sure that you assign someone to write that good story, and also having the skills to be able to get it out there, as has been said by the previous presenters. So why do we need to do it from the club's perspective? Well, I think they need it for their own personal satisfaction. They need to know that what they have been doing actually is valuable, that they have made a difference to those people in the community that they may have helped. That they need to understand why it was a good thing to do. And we need to share our knowledge with people and tell our Rotary stories to be able to attract attention from the public, from other Rotary clubs. And I acknowledge that over this COVID time, many clubs haven't physically been able to achieve this. within our club situation. But that's also been a good time to take a bit of a stock take about some of the work that has already been done in clubs and the projects that have been achieved, the money raised. And that's really a good time then to be able to pull those things together and put it out on our local newspapers, put it out onto our Facebook pages, and also to tell our friends. I think we're always very bad as Rotarians about telling our story to our own colleagues and friends and our business colleagues as well. Because club members are always amazed at how much the club has actually achieved, and that does give a great feeling of satisfaction. So moving on to, moving on to how do we get the word out there? Well, it does come back to good communication, because this is where all the work is done. We all acknowledge that the clubs is where the work is done. And so we need to be able to answer that question, as has been said before by America, the why, what, how, and who benefited from the project. And of course, the absolute benefit of playing a short video. They are the ones, as I know from putting out on social media, that get the best views and the best interaction and engagement from. You don't have to be an expert, but I do suggest that you practice doing something like that, making sure that you feel confident about taking a video and that it looks fun by saying just a few words about what's been going on. Seeing people in a fun environment, having a good time, actually really does give an image that we work within our communities, that we know that we're not just all meeting and speakers. That's a very important thing to be able to show to our public. So share those stories and share them on our social media platforms and on our websites, as has already been said. So from a district perspective, what happens to that project and the story of that project? Well, it leads on nicely really to sharing those achievements with your public image chair or team, and they're all here in your area, and they can spread the word into a district newsletter. They can share it with the district governor and the assistant governors and your cluster groups. And you can share your projects through a blog with a hashtag and on social media to related organisations in New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. And that's really important. We did this with a Rotary Can project that we recently did in my own club during COVID. And I'll just tell you a little story about that. I know that we've got a few minutes. And that is what we did was we got the story around the Salvation Army. We heard that they were really running short of food and that we needed to go out and help them. So what did that do? Well, that story inspired us to get moving as a group. And we also shared it on social media, which inspired others to say, oh, what an easy way of doing that project. We'd love to come and help you do that. And it was widened out to a larger group. So that's how they can promote it out through the district. It gives a greater awareness, it gives better fundraising, and it does raise our profile within our own district at a club level. And of course, coming back to your zone, very important one, of course, is the polio train ride that you're all going to be involved in this month. So why do we need to do that? Well, it does give you better buy-in. You know, I know that with one of the other little stories that I had was getting a message out with my knickers for squatters camps in Fiji some 4 years ago now, where I put that out on social media and asked the PEs who were coming up to Spets to be able to engage their clubs to give us some knickers for small children. Why did I do that? Because I asked what was needed over in the squatters camp. And I said, what did you need? And they said, we need underwear. And I thought, well, yes, that's a fantastic thing, but can't you buy it? And they said, no, it's too expensive. So that story created an avalanche of knickers, of which I got 4,000 pairs. And that went out back through to the Pacific. And it helped not just one squatters camp, but 4 of them. When I was really thrilled that happened, That was the power of social media. It also attracted RDU magazine article, and also was one of those things that even went further. I shared that story when I was giving a presentation at the Hamburg convention last year. And it was just amazing to see the reaction that I got from telling that story. So just that one question of what do you need basically got me a worldwide audience. It spreads our Rotary net a lot wider. In Zone 8, we certainly recognise that we represent a very large multicultural group with many differences, and we do strive to be able to demonstrate those through storytelling. For example, storytelling was one of the first things that gave us language, and drawing on caves gave us pictures. So we really do have this idea of storytelling, writing, and photography. It started when we were in evolution. So as an aside, some of you may not realize that the wider world of our Zone 2, we had a Christchurch earthquake, as you well and truly know, but RI actually supported us financially by giving us some $300,000 to start an earthquake trust. Now, they wouldn't have known about that if we hadn't have told them. The Zone helped us as well. So, you know, these sorts of things, we've considered that these stories motivate our giving, and that's part of a very important part of support. And if you're wanting support and trust, you have to tell your story. It's like our mosque shooting. Unfortunately, we've had quite a lot of these things that have happened in Christchurch, and we've really experienced that wider world of Rotary, everyone coming to support us, monetary-wise, message-wise, and being there on the ground to help us with some of the issues and challenges that have arisen. So what happened with the money that we were given with the mosque, for example? All around the Zone and around the world, the Riccarton Rotary was given money to start a trust. Now that trust now goes out to help those teenagers who have now been left maybe without mum or dad, without caregivers, to be able to help them in their quest for in education and with sporting scholarships, and to help them get through to the next stages of their lives. It's also helped them with counselling as well. So we wouldn't have that if we didn't have our wonderful wider world of Rotary and getting that out there. So just, it really comes down to building relationships. And that's something that I think Rotarians do extremely well. They're really good about building those relationships. And we're just doing that now by connecting everyone up here. It's that connection between cultures, countries, zones, clubs, and districts. So in summary, I'm just going to say that we're connected by having some communication processes in place that can be even better at sharing our wonderful stories to motivate and inspire people, not only ourselves, but more importantly, members of the public to come and join us. So better sharing and connecting, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. That's wonderful. What a brilliant bunch of speeches, or presenters, should I say. Alan, I'm going to go over to you.
So before that, next slide.
Just have to take control back.
Yeah. So what I want to do is, can you stop sharing and just so we can see everyone and just have a short time for a discussion. I know we're just on 5 o'clock now. There's only 2 more slides after this. So I'd like us to go so we can see everyone. Hey, that's great. And, oh, there's Ruth quickly getting on. And I've asked Ruth to facilitate this session. Please unmute yourself and ask the questions of us. You can see us on me. It's on the top row, other than Ruth, who's hidden below because she didn't use her presenter slide. But you know, ask us any question you want about social media, and we'll try and answer it for you. Admittedly, we have only a short time, but please do not be shy. Who wants to start off?
I'll have a go.
Kevin.
Liz, question to you and to probably Colin. Well, I can't see him in my group here. We've had a project running in Mozambique now, which has been sponsored by all clubs out of all the, I think, districts except one in New Zealand. And it's reaching a climax. It's reaching the end of the funding. Obviously, that we want to make sure that it keeps going, that we're going to probably have a go at doing something in Fiji, you know, who knows where. And we need to get it in our own district. That's easy. I think everybody knows about it. We can't get it into, or I don't seem to know how to do it, to get it into the other districts where it gets some attention, and then from there into the zone, into Europe, into America, into the whole damn world. And Rotary is very siloed, and you know I'm sure there isn't a magic formula to it, but have you got any ideas between the two of you of how we can go about it, even if it's in blocks and things like that? It might take a year to do. But
yeah,
we've
absolutely.
got to do it.
Well, first of all, there is a thing on Rotary.org called Rotary Showcase. And that is a wonderful way of going in and being able to explain and put a photograph of your major district projects in there. And that way it gets the attention of a lot of other clubs who are looking for projects to be able to support. That's one way. The other way is that's the worldwide one. The other one would be to send me some information about it. As your RDU representative, I can go and get that through to RDU, and also Colin can do that as well.
Yeah.
And then we can ask to see if there could be some a lovely story written around that. It needs to just be quite short and sweet, and then they will perhaps come back to you to ask for more information. That's certainly the way to do that.
Yeah.
And then the other way, of course, is to be able to put some sort of lovely post up, which I'm very happy to do on Rotary Oceania on the Facebook page for you. So there are 3 different ways that you can do that, Kev.
Fantastic, thank you.
Kevin, obviously you're talking about Madagascar instead of Mozambique, but that's okay. But you would have
Did I
seen.
say Mozambique? Yeah, silly me. I was on holiday.
You would have seen, if you'd seen the Spring into Alice convention, a wonderful video that was produced by Liz and by Jenny, and the Madagascan Onja project was featured through that, and it went right around the world. Actually, that project went.
Yeah, I shared that with my RI partners, Alan. That YouTube video link was on the bottom of my screen, and I'm sorry, I did forget to mention that. And that has actually been taken now, and it will be shared with all the communications team over there. They loved it. They loved all of the content and were very complimentary to our New Zealand projects. So I think we need to keep doing more of them, and I'm about to do some more as well. So thank you.
Fantastic. Next question, anyone else?
I wanted to check, was that video professionally shot? It was really great.
Yes, it was. We had a budget that was given to us, luckily, from the conference for the Spring into Alice conference. Because we couldn't go there virtually, they gave us some money to do that one. And it cost us about just over $4,500 to do that. And that was very reasonably done. We have now a very good working relationship with the person who helped us do that, which is really very valuable for Rita. Thank you.
Yeah, it did show it was very professionally done.
Thank you.
Also, if you haven't got, we'd love to get some feedback as well on takeaways from today, or things that you think you're going to do differently. Some insights that you've received that you're actually going to put into action. Does anyone Does anyone want to volunteer on that? Some information?
I personally have been, I've just downloaded that Canva.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful.
Great.
Oh.
Really cool.
Oh,
That's one of
Ursula's
big takeaways
my
from me.
new resident graphic designer expert.
I doubt it. It's fun to play with though. It's cool.
No, it is good. It's great, even for personal things as well. You can create invitations, you name it. You just type in what you want and it'll give you a whole range of templates, or you can do it yourself.
It's wonderful. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
it's Tanya.
and it's been absolutely amazing. Canva on the professional level allows you to create a brand kit with fonts, colors, everything else. What you can do is you can create one image that has your fonts, it has your colors, it has your basic stuff. And then basically every time you create a new one, go copy that first image and then paste it over into the other. And then Canva will pick up your colors, it'll pick up everything. And it makes it so much faster than typing in your hex codes, searching for the sans, open sans condensed, and all those different kinds of things. So I call the image brand kit, and then I just use that to clone everything else down the road.
It's amazing.
Cool.
Thanks, America. I'm also just going to go to Tanya there, who was about to say something.
Oh, kia ora, everyone. My apologies. I've had terrible internet, so I've been in and out, but everything I heard was absolutely useful, helpful. I'm just really, I didn't know anything really about social media. So Ruth, your session, I just found it absolutely helpful. You wouldn't believe it, just wonderful. So I just want to say thank you, everyone.
Yay.
Thank you, Tanya. Really appreciate your feedback.
Awesome.
I reckon we should give Paul or acknowledge Paul Sargison for the colours of the day. He matches his jacket to his t-shirt to the colour of his chair. You're muted. You're muted, Paul.
Sorry, the top was actually green. It's a problem with my camera.
Ah, is that right? There you go. A picture will tell wrong stories.
Excellent.
Anybody else that have any particular takeaways? Brian, were you just about to say something?
Yeah. Our club last year invited Darth Vader to speak on anger management. And we had a lot of feedback from media that had we been familiar with the stuff that you were talking about today, we would have told them in advance, because after the fact, they wanted to be part of that. And the video we made was about 20 minutes long of it. And, you know, we found out today it would be a much better idea if we cut that down to a couple of minutes and maybe did segments of it and things like that.
Which club do you belong to, Brian?
The Port Arthur Rotary in Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Okay.
Wonderful. Gee, we've got quite a reach then, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Welcome, Brian.
All right, John.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you for.
You're welcome, John. If we go back to sharing into those last couple of slides.
Yep.
Ruth, did you?
I'm going to run it from now on, aren't I?
Yeah.
Sorry, Ursula.
Was there anything else you wanted to add there?
I did want to just let everyone know that if you do want to contact each of us and ask more questions, I mean, Brian's reached out and asked if I can do a presentation to his club, so that, and you know, that's great, because I'm guessing it's just to make sure that everyone's on board with the idea that they need to contribute in order to get their social media humming along and create content. I also noticed that Peter was concerned that it sounds like, you know, that optimum would mean, you know, more content, 2 to 3 posts a week, and how are you going to find that sort of content? And, you know, the idea is you get everyone contributing and you know, to have that conversation with the rest of your club, just to make sure, because it is a big job for just one person. So this is an important presentation to do to your club, whether you do it yourself or you get someone involved. I know Melissa did a presentation to her club, just to make sure that everyone's aware that it's a joint responsibility to provide content you know, so make sure that everyone's got it on mind and not just a couple of people worrying about it, because it is hard to create a lot of content.
So Ruth, just one question there. In terms of Facebook, do you get all members to be admin on the club Facebook page? Or like at least more than 2 or 3?
Yeah, 2 or 3 would be good. You know, you definitely get, you know, whoever you think are, you know, pretty savvy with social media or good at taking great photos. And also from a safety perspective, just to make sure that you're not the only person that has admin access on your club, because if anything, you know, touch wood, if anything happens to that one admin on the club, then no one will ever get access to that page again. So it is important to have multiple admins, but again, to make sure that you've all had that meeting, you've all created your social media strategy and you've talked about it together, and maybe you split it up, whether you split up platforms and, you know, someone takes care of Instagram, someone takes care of Facebook, or 2 people on Facebook, but you all have that conversation to make sure that you're working on it together.
Right, I just see that America also seconds that.
Yeah, I noticed America did. America, could you chime in? I noticed you gave a great tip in the chat about how you got your club members to all take responsibility for content, and they all had to. Someone had to post on different days. Is that correct?
Yes, so it is a lot to post, and it can be overwhelming, and also you get busy. Like there's some weeks where you can post a lot of stuff, and there's other weeks where it's just too much. And so I wanted to make sure that we had multiple administrators, because, you know, people move away or they get sick, or, you know, all kinds of things happen. But asking them to post 1 time per week on their day was all I asked for them. And what that meant was that they were familiar with what was going on. It also meant that they were seeing other posts from the other members in the club and everything. So that was my year as president, which was 2016, I think, or 2017. So it was on the slide. But I actually will echo that to my current president, because I don't think that I don't know who's doing our social media right now. So.
Right, John, we better go to the next slide. So I want to thank you all for attending, but more importantly, I want to thank my team. But first of all, Ursula and John, you know, they are part of the ICT and the leadership development team. A lot of the leadership development are in Queenstown at the present time, but Ursula, as a young mum, has done a wonderful job in supporting us. And John, I really appreciate your support as well. So first of all, I'd like to thank you guys. And then I'd like to thank
Edith also gives her apologies, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she's having a wine.
She'll be watching the rugby now.
Yeah.
In Queenstown.
I'd also like to thank my team. You know, Ruth, America, Liz, I really appreciate you coming on board, but also the team in the background as well with Farida. And then you've got Madison, Annabelle, Colin, etc. I want to thank you all for the work that you've done up to here. It hasn't been easy. I've given them free rein to be courageous and to go forward and look forward, and how can we actually add value to our clubs. One of the things that I am proud of is that as part of my social media team, and I'm going to take some kudos here, Melissa, because Melissa is a caregiver for her mum, but in the same token, she's been able to develop her skills to start up an event company in Fiji in really tough times. So well done, Melissa.
Yes.
I think that, you know, I use that slide at the side there with the parrot going, "Ah, what's happening here?" And then I use the wine and say we can be calm, cool, and collected. So work your partnerships. As you've seen the tips today, make sure that you develop those partnerships. We are always open for your questions. Please, Ruth has opened up the questions, but if you use the hashtag Rotary Pacific, Ruth will be monitoring that from here on in, plus others. And, you know, please allow us to help you. In a couple of weeks, I'm going away on a holiday, thank goodness, into the South Island. But when we come back, we will be contacting our clubs to see if they're using the hints and tips. As John said, and he messaged you, that the recording of today will be on the YouTube Rotary District or Rotary Oceania, John?
Oceania YouTube account, but the link will be on the site.
Yep. The link I've
Right.
already posted on my slide too, to the YouTube channel.
Okay, so you can look that up at any time at your leisure. The other important posting on Liz's slide as well was the one connecting the Spring into Alice convention, where we had the video on the first day, which highlighted some projects out of New Zealand. And if you look at those, you're able to cut them up to different individual snippets, and you'd be pretty proud of what New Zealanders have done in some hard times. So
they're actually already in separate little snippets on the YouTube channel, Alan, which makes it easy too.
okay, that's good. The last thing I want to say with Ursula, and she's just reminded me, that we want your feedback. Please let us know. You know, it's important for the LED team as much as it is for the public image team to get your feedback. We're going to go on a journey with this. This is a start of how do we look at public image over not this year, but year 2, year 3, and year 4. We have to make changes. We have to do everything different in order to adapt to the community and connect with our communities. So thank you all for attending. Hope you have a great afternoon or evening, and please contact us if we can help in any way. Hats off to you all. Thanks, Farida. You produced the hats on idea. And District Governor Craig, thank you very much for allowing this to happen. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alan.
Right.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye-bye.
I could do it really quickly and just let everyone off. I'll
I
let them
just
go
wanted
in
to
their
talk
own
to
quiet
Ursula.
time.
I just wanted to talk to Ursula before the end there, John.
Sure, yeah,
Sure.
it'd be good to
I will stop recording now.
Yeah.